Hi, my name is Riley Stork, and the title of my poster is The Association of Body Mass Index with Mortality in Young Adults. I worked on this research with Buyun Liu and Wei Bao. So for some background information, there's something known as the obesity paradox, which has been shown in previous research. And this paradox implies that there may be a protective effect for individuals in the overweight BMI category, meaning that individuals in this category have a decreased risk of mortality in comparison to the normal BMI category. One issue with this is that it is potentially reverse causation. Overweight and obese individuals who become ill may lose weight because of their illness, and this will change their BMI categories. And much of this previous research has been done in older populations, which brings up the issue of survival bias. Survival bias is the loss of participants due to death or disease throughout or before the research period, which may make certain populations appear to have lower mortality rates than they actually do. This is relevant to obesity because the early onset of obesity may lead to disease early in life and an increased risk of early mortality. And this research topic is important to the field of public health because the obesity epidemic is a very important public health issue, especially in the United States where obesity rates are so high. The main objective of this research was to look at association between BMI and mortality in a young adult population. By looking at a young adult population, we are trying to avoid survival bias because even people who are at an increased risk of disease and mortality at a young age are able to be included in the study. So we analyzed data from NHANES 3 using SAS software, and NHANES is the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. So data for NHANES 3 was collected from 1988 to 1994, and it is a nationally representative sample. The population of interest is young adults aged 18 to 44. The sample size was 7,143 individuals, and the average follow-up was 23.1 years with a standard deviation of 3.9 years. Some of the confounding variables that we took into account include age, gender, race/ethnicity, smoking status, family income, physical activity in minutes per week, alcohol intake, and total energy intake. And the outcomes that we were looking at were all-cause mortality, cardiovascular disease mortality, and cancer mortality. Cox proportional hazard regression models were used. Model 1 was adjusted for age, gender, race/ethnicity, and Model 2 was adjusted for age, gender, race/ethnicity, family income, smoking status, alcohol intake, physical activity, and total energy intake. Normal BMI category was used as a reference group for which to compare the other hazards ratios to. So for the results, I've included a table that show the outcome variables as they relate to the BMI categories. During the follow-up period, 648 deaths occurred, 95 of which were from CVD and 134 of which were from cancer. The hazard ratios show an increased risk in all BMI categories in both Model 1 and Model 2 in comparison to the normal BMI category. And as shown in the column on the right, there is a statistically significantly increased risk of all-cause mortality, CVD mortality, and cancer mortality in the obese category. And the other hazards ratios are all above 1. However, they include the value of 1 in their 95% confidence intervals, so they are not statistically significant. So none of the hazards ratios in the table are below 1, which means that none of the BMI categories have a decreased risk of mortality compared to the normal BMI category. And this is important because these results do not support the obesity paradox. And these results have potential implications for treating obesity in younger individuals. Some of the strengths of the study include the large number of confounding variables that we addressed, as well as our attempt to avoid survival bias by studying younger population. And some limitations include the potential misidentification of causes of death, as well as the fact that some of the data is self-reported. So in conclusion, obesity is associated with significantly increased risk of all-cause mortality, CVD mortality, and cancer mortality. And these results do not support the obesity paradox, which is significant because the obesity paradox can be very misleading. Personally, I plan to continue with this research team as we write our research article with the goal of it being published. I have learned a lot from this research experience. I've learned how to analyze data using SAS code and the basics of writing a research paper, both of which are skills that I think will be very important to me in my future public health career. And I'd like to thank Buyun Liu and Wei Bao for allowing me to work on this research with them and grow in my public health knowledge and experience.